Go for it, Judy.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to try not to duplicate, too much of the stuff that's already been said about sleep. And because, as I was doing the work, it was still like, oh, well, we've already talked about that and we've talked about that. But I'll try to just sort of bring it all in again and in a short form. But if somebody needs some clarification or they didn't, Linda, you didn't get to see the other sleep, things, but being a nurse, you're going to have a little competitive advantage, so it'll be okay. But so I have agreed to talk about sleep and gut health and how there's a link both ways, right? There's actually a gut brain axis and there's a gut sleep axis. So we're just going to sort of bring that around. And so what I really love is this book here, and I don't know if any of you have read it, Healthy Gut, Healthy You. No? Okay. It's an excellent book.
Who's it by?
It is by Dr. Michael Ruscio, Ruscio.
Can you hold it up not so close to the camera so that we
can
get a
Healthy Gut, Healthy You.
And then where his name is so that we can just get that. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, shoot. You got to hold it up a little higher. I'm sorry. There you go. Thanks. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You got it?
Yep.
Okay. By the way, I'll be happy to give you information after if you need to, but it's not a problem. I started making some great slides, and then my son's getting married on Saturday, so there's a lot of stuff going on than the last couple of weeks here. But anyway, it's all going to be great. We're not going to worry about it. And but that is a great book. And The Microbiome Diet by Kelman. And it's literally just called The Microbiome Diet. And that's an older book. But and some of you know, but I'll just quickly tell a little bit of my story. But in 2008, I ended up with salmonella poisoning that I didn't know. And I had some outpatient surgery, and then that created a whole series of events where I just became really sick with autoimmune colitis. And at that time, it was kind of rare. It's been more diagnosed now, so it's not as rare, but they didn't know what to do. And I was back and forth in that story of nobody could figure out what was going on. So, and I was a diabetes educator. I was a wound care nurse, pediatric nurse, ICU nurse. So anyway, I have a long, I was like, had a long story of knowing about this. But when I got really sick, I had to really go on a deep dive, like most of us do when something happens, right? We're like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to find the answers and solutions. So I would say that I'm pretty much a gut health expert because I have really, and literally 1 year, I had a colonoscopy and he said, you need to come back in 1 year for another colonoscopy because it's really pretty bad in there. And I was like, okay. So, but I went on my own journey and my own mission, eliminated so many things, did a lot of the stuff. I didn't have these books then. I didn't have a health coach. I didn't have a Mari. I didn't have any, I was doing like telesummits. Remember them? They weren't even like webinars. It was like a weird telesummit, or just reading PubMed articles. So, so really going on this deep dive and finding out these answers was really the key. But I went back 1 year later for my colonoscopy and he was like, I don't know what you've been doing, but it's amazing, like you're all healed. So, hey, Amy. And so that kind of put me on that trajectory. So anyway, I just thought I would share that just so you kind of have a frame of reference. But, the science keeps evolving. I didn't know anything about a gut-brain axis, until a couple of years ago. I didn't know, right? It just keeps evolving. No one told me there was a thing called the microbiome. Like, no doctor told me that 10, 11 years ago when I was dying, slow death. But so what I want to just sort of bring around is this sort of how does sleep and the gut actually work together? and creating the challenges that we kind of can see and how to optimize, right? So we're going to talk about a little bit about the duration, consistency, and intensity of sleep, which you guys have already kind of covered a lot, right? But we want to make sure that we have this I'm just going to give you a quick overview because most of us know about sleep, but maybe we're just going to go over that, right? So most of us need 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and most of us don't get that. What is it? 50 to 70 million Americans are, sleep deprived. And I'll get into how that really impacts everything. And a lot of people are struggling with sleep issues, and they're sleeping more than 9 hours, right? I mean, if any of you have been in depression or some of those things, it's like you can't get your butt out of the bed, or you get out and you're not well. And so all of these things contribute to our poor health. The consistency, right? And that's going to be talking about the circadian rhythm, which Megan talked about last time. She talked a lot about the circadian rhythm and our natural cycle. And that goes back to, this is the consistency of going to bed at the same time every night and getting up at the same time and, getting your rhythm going because it helps with all of those hormones and all of that biofeedback that needs to happen. And so that's where things like jet lag and all that stuff can really be a challenge when we're moving through all of that. So, and this is actually coming from, a lot of this is coming from that book, Healthy Gut, Healthy You, with some other things that I've thrown in. So when you are losing sleep, how it impacts your gut is inflammation. We create cytokines. So we're going to have a lot of inflammation, systemic bodily inflammation and gut inflammation, which impacts your lining, and that permeability, right? The leaky gut. Then we have, it starts to create the disease activity that's going on because we know that inflammation is precursor to almost every disease. And the mucous membrane of the gut gets impacted by this inflammation. So we got a lot of things going on there. And of course, sleep and the rhythm that we just talked about, circadian rhythm. And this is where things like shift work is really a challenge for people, right? Is because we're not getting the consistent sleep that I know that when I was a nurse working shifts, I would not do well at all. That was not for me. But there's a big connection between IBS and sleep, and how sleep deprivation just does all those things that we just talked about, right? It's impacting our gut health in those ways. And then a little bit about the melatonin connection. Did anybody talk about melatonin much? Did we talk about melatonin and cortisol?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
So
Yeah,
I'll go into that as a little bit. So, right, the better you sleep, the more melatonin you naturally release. Like that's actually a thing, right? It's like the better quality and consistent sleep that you have, then you're actually creating more melatonin in your body. So the opposite is true. When we're sleep deprived, when we're not feeling well, then, right, or shift work or jet lag, we are making less melatonin, right? And less melatonin is directly related to leaky gut, right? So better sleep, we're going to increase our melatonin and we're going to decrease our gut microbiome problems. So I think a lot of people just think like, maybe they don't really realize that we're actually, I mean, we know that we're making our own melatonin, but we're not really understanding how impactful that is. And then, so I'm just going to divert here a little bit about melatonin and cortisol, because it's really valuable to kind of understand this connection about how melatonin and cortisol work in a symbiotic relationship. So melatonin is, it starts getting produced in the evening, right? I don't know how much anybody knows, but I'll try to just keep it short. But if you want, let me know if this is boring you. But melatonin starts to get released in the evening, right? And it's about 12 to 14 hours after we wake up. And that's when it starts to dive down. And so, sorry, melatonin starts to get produced in the evening, right? So it slowly prepares your body to get to sleep, to rest, to relax and to have a good night's sleep. And then it peaks around 3 a.m., right? So the most melatonin you're going to make is around 3 a.m. And that's why when people go to bed at midnight and 1 a.m., like, I mean, unless they do that every single night, and then even then it might be challenging, but your body it actually has its rhythm and it's trying to function within that. So anyway, it slowly drops, it slowly, peaks at 3 a.m. And then what happens is your cortisol starts rising, right? So that you can wake up, because cortisol is the fight or flight, it's the energy, it's right, it's all of that. So your cortisol is naturally rises, right? They work as your cortisol goes up, your melatonin goes down, right? And then in the morning, you're going to have high cortisol, and then that's going to wake you up. You're going to feel energized, you're going to feel good, you're going to feel the bluebird of happiness. And right, and your melatonin is down, right? And then that's how it goes, right? So then during the day, your cortisol slowly drops down, and then your melatonin is going to come up. And then we could get into a whole nother ball of wax around adrenal fatigue and all of that, where your cortisol is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, and then that is going to impact your melatonin, right? So if your cortisol, because they work together, so if your cortisol is flat, then your melatonin is probably not going to be working right. And so it's really valuable to just understand, morning your cortisol is up, and it slowly, this is what it's supposed to do, slowly dive down. And then your melatonin is supposed to rise in the evening, and then so that you can go to sleep. So just kind of wanted to make sure people have a real understanding of how that works. And when we're doing things like when we're feeling a lot of stress, or sometimes people that work out in the evening raise their cortisol, and then that is going to impact your melatonin, right? If you just understand how those hormones are working together, right, that's going to impact your, that could impact how you're feeling going to sleep, raising your body temperature, changing that. And then the whole thing about, like, we just talked about the circadian rhythm. And so important to kind of really understand that. You can increase your melatonin through some diet, right? Tryptophan, which is also in our Amare product, right? So we have a precursor to melatonin in our body. And actually, it's really fascinating why Amare has that in there, is because actual taking the melatonin is not the best thing for you. So that's why they put this corn grass, this non-GMO corn grass, that actually helps you make more melatonin, right? So very powerful to know that. And then tryptophan is in there as well, but you can also increase that with foods. We know about turkey at Thanksgiving. We all want to take a nap. But bananas, potatoes, tomatoes, oats, oranges, cherries, nuts, and pineapples. So those are rich in tryptophan, and those will also help with that. But the main thing, and then of course taking a supplement, you know, we happen to really like Amare's one, but taking some kind of melatonin helps with jet lag. Like there are times when if you're a shift worker, like there are times that you may need to supplement, you know, somewhere along the way. But like I said before, if your gut microbiome is out of whack, you're still going to be impacted by the cortisol melatonin link. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Does anybody have any questions about that, or does that kind of give you a little, everybody good? Okay. If not, we can address that later. So the other part, if we move on now, I just kind of wanted to pull that together so everybody understood melatonin and cortisol, is that that how jet lag, right, really does impact your microbiome. It actually noticeable shifts in your gut microbiome within like 24 hours. And they've actually done a lot of research, and one of the studies showed that literally 6 days of sleep deprivation and your serotonin levels fall, your gut lining is altered. So there's quite a bit of your blood sugar and insulin resistance goes up. So there's like just 6 days, that's 6 days of getting 6 hours of sleep or less a night. So that's not even like, maybe you got 3 or 4 hours because you were traveling, right? That's like just 6 hours or less. So pretty significant, impact there. And it also changes more than 700 of your genes in that 1 week, just sleep deprivation alone. So that's going to show that how, right? And we know that our genes are impacting, they're impacted by food, but now we see that they're impacted by sleep, right? And these are activate, right? We're turning on the gene expression and all that stuff. So inflammatory, immune, and stress responses. Those were some of the genes that were impacted. And they don't really know what that means yet, but we're just keep learning. And so the main thing is to know that sleep is critical to replace and replenish new cells. So I want to make sure we have that in there. And then, yeah, so let's just talk about the other thing about gut health. So, we talk a lot about the gut brain health, and, we're all, doing the best we can to repair our gut microbiome. And, most of us know quite a bit about gut health at this point. But I just wanted to say this book, The Microbiome Diet, has a 4-prong approach, and that is you're going to remove, you're going to replenish, then you're going to replace, and then reinoculate. Remove, replace, repair, reinoculate. Reinoculate, repair. So those are the 4 kind of elements that we need to do for our gut microbiome to help. But now they kind of have a little bit more expansive, and it's 7. They call it the 7R action plan. And so I'm just going to go over this really quick so that, anybody that you're talking to, you kind of have an overview of, and I can send you this as well. But basically, we're going to, reset our microbiome. And that would be like taking out a lot of foods that aren't serving you, maybe getting some MCT oils in there, and, kind of an anti-inflammatory diet, plant-based, right? Because we want to nurture with a lot of varieties. This was interesting. I heard this the other day. Back in the, millennia, we used to eat as humans about 600 different types of food in a year. And now we eat about 40. So they used to just eat all kinds of tubers and grubs and berries and animals and whatever. And so now we're eating only about 40. So, right, diversity, diversity, diversity. So really important to kind of remember that. And so the reset is also this lifestyle, right? Yoga, meditation, mindfulness, right? So we want to start just resetting everything. That would be the beginning. And then we want to really remove the foods that are the most damaging to the gut, which are processed food, sugar, dairy, gluten, and, adding in some other things that are, bone broth and stuff like that. And then number 3R was replace. So we had reset, remove, and now we're on to replace, which is digestive enzymes. It's really interesting. They say to kind of start with digestive enzymes before you, like to do all this stuff before you kind of add in the probiotics, which is what I love about Amari, has the 3-day gut reboot, right, to help restore that. So digestive enzymes, because that helps heal the gut lining. And then the 4th R is to regenerate. And that is where, you want to heal that mucosal lining. We want to actually, glutamine and some other things, some other nutrients in there. And then we can reinoculate with the probiotics and prebiotics. And then we can start reintroducing some foods that you can see how you tolerate them. And then retain the gut integrity, right? Which is also about the mental health, gut health, and all of that. And then it's really interesting because the last 2 pieces on here are about glyphosate and how that's not helping anybody. So eat organic where you can, clean your stuff, clean your food. And I think I'm just going to leave you with a few other things that are pretty much, what we already know. But I want to just say these are some tools or some strategies that we can do. So use a blue light at night. Like we all should probably be having blue blocker glasses on, but none of us have it. And now it's late at night. So we might want to investigate in that. Keep your sleeping environment cool. Keep your bedroom quiet. Avoid stressful pre-bed activities. I like how it says no arguments or fight scenes on TV. And the truth is, I used to watch some of those, SVU and all those crazy shows, and I was like, this is not helping me live a happy life. Not doing that. And then try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And it was interesting because they say that if you do have leaky gut or some kind of really, you're having a lot of health challenges, you probably need that 8 to 9 hours sleep, not the kind of 6 to 7. Diffusing with lavender because that's calming. So probably a lot of you do that already. And then also to investigate for sleep apnea, because there's a whole nother area of how sleep is impacted by your respiratory problems or breathing problems. And then take a nap. Naps are recommended if you're tired. And what else is on here? Music therapy, good sleep quality, and get your hormones checked, making sure your female hormones and your adrenal hormones are working properly. And take supplements when you need to. So whether it's Amari Sleep, magnesium, there's actually magnesium in the sleep product as well, but magnesium and vitamin D3, which are also in the sleep product. So how about that? And that's pretty much what I feel like is a good overview of sleep and gut.
Nice. Yeah, I loved it. Any questions? Hey, Amy, good to see you.
Hi, good to see you. I just want to thank Judy. That was awesome. And a little trick that I've like figured out with taking the sleep supplement is that I don't take it like right when I get in bed. Like I usually fall asleep and then I wake up to pee like, I don't know, maybe like 75 to 90 minutes, like after my first cycle of sleep. And then I take it. And then I sleep so solidly. So I take 2 out and I put them by my pillow. And, in the dark, I'm already in that mode. And then I have a little sip of water and then I take it. And y'all, that little method that I put on, I've been doing it for like, I don't know, 6 months now. It's been awesome. Really helpful.
That's a great tip.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, thanks, Judy. That was awesome. So we'll stop the recording there and we can actually give it to people as well. That was beautiful.